Yeah, we're holding in the middle of Hilchos Mezuzah, and we're holding on Sif Ches. So it says, "B'ktsas she'orim yesh Pesach cotton etzel shar hagodol." There are some gates that have, by the main gate where you come in, there's a larger gate or a smaller gate. V'derech haPesach cotton yotzim min haknosim, and people come in at the side. In other words, there's like a large gate, and sometimes you have on the side, you have another little gate. V'ashar hagodol eino niftach rak l'prokim, and the large gate only opens up occasionally, when they have big crowds. Otherwise, everybody uses the side entrance, so to speak. The Shem Shnei Psachim, he says, since they happen to be two separate entrances, Ubeineim Omud Rochav Tefach, and there is a pillar. In other words, there is a separation between one gate and the other one that is wide, at least a Tefach. So then in that case, Hayobim B'Shnei Mezuzah, so they're obligated in putting two mezuzahs. The Mokim Shebesmich Tzifet, but Mokim Shesh Lochos Shem Yignevoy, so if you're afraid that maybe the mezuzah will be stolen, if it's possible, you're allowed to dig into the wall, and you could put the mezuzah inside. But even when you're doing that, make sure don't go as far as deep as a tefach. Because if it's a tefach, it's further in the tefach, it's already not considered on the mezuzah, on the post. It's already inside the post. Inside the post, it's possible. You also have to be careful that the place for the mezuzah should be recognizable. If you can't do that, you could rely to put the mezuzah behind the door, which means to put it on the post itself, not on the wall. He should, in other words, from the entrance of the post of going into the room should be within a tefach, because other than it's more than a tefach, it's possible. So there was everything that was within a tefach, it's still kosher. Sifyud. Which means the size of the room which needs a mezuzah has to be at least arba ames. It doesn't have, it's like narrow and long, but however, you could square it out to have arba ames. For example, if it's longer than it is wider or it's round, and some say that it's potter, and the Alter Rebbe also says that it's potter. See if you're out. Now he's getting into the shape of the doors that a lot of people have, questions on and so on. And that is, you have to have two posts that are there, and on top of the two posts, there has to be at least 10 tvachim, the posts, solid tvachim, and there has to be a lentil, on top of a mashke. If the mezuzahs are not made of wood or stone, which means you have a continuation of the walls. The walls serve as in other words, there's no specific post at the entrance, like where you may have a door, but you have two walls that come together, and on top of that you have a mashke. It's also mezuzah. But let's say it has only one side. For example, you have the walls is continuing, and there's like little open. One is longer than the other, or one comes around this way, and the other one still continues. So in that case, it's a suffix. You should put it without a bracha. If it's on the right side, that entrance where you're going in that way, for sure you need a mezuzah. But if it's otherwise a suffix and it's not a suffix, so what you do is you don't make a bracha, or make a bracha on another mezuzah and have this in mind. What happens if you have two mezuzahs, you have two posts? The ancient mashkef, it doesn't have a mashkef on top. Keshes. It is some kind of a round thing and so on. What if it doesn't even have posts, but it basically it comes like around the wall, it comes that way. Which means to say that if you were to take the make believe as if you're carving out from the walls, you would sort of chip it out and you would end up having 10 tefachim on each side. The fact that it starts going and it goes round, but if in a space of 10 tefachim, it'll still be it could have it'll be like a regular proper post that you still have to put a mezuzah. Yeah. Some say even if there's no doors, you need a mezuzah. And some say you need to have doors. And the reason they say you need to have doors because since it's a Pesach, it should be tasav v'leimena osui. However, for what happens if you had a door, you put up a mezuzah, and then you took off the door, and then you go put back the door? That's not considered tasav v'leimena osui, even according to those that hold that it should really have original doors. Now he continues, which kind of rooms need a mezuzah? He says, a room that's not meant permanently to use is potter. Therefore, a sukkos on Chag HaSukkos is potter. And the shukah, if you set up a shop and that you do only during the market time, the meshach hayadid, for several weeks for the yadid, and then you take it apart, or they remain without any use, are potter. But those stores that, even though that you don't live there, but you still store their schayda, so then they mechuyev with the mezuzah. You have like a porch that has 3 mechitzas and a roof on top of it. The fourth side is breached and open. Even though that it has 2 posts at the end that come out like this, from the fourth wall, and which make it look perhaps like a tzuras HaPesach, is still p'tura mezuzah, is potter min mezuzah. Neishaptzimin leinasim mishum mezuzah, is those p'tzimin that are come out over there are not made to serve as they're not made as posts. It's only made there to support the roof. But if it has a wall on the fourth side, even though that the fourth side, let's say it's shorter walls, don't reach the roof, but as long as it's it's considered a fourth wall. So it's even though it's made windows, it's chayeves, it's mechuyev with the mezuzah. Base shar who base cotton shades shar a little guard, little booth. It has like a thing, or if you have a little room, this little porch that's meant to be the area through which you go onto the roof. It has like a ladder in it, a room for the ladder, which is just to be able to have access to the roof. To the Agina, Badir, in some places, there's Pturim and Mezuzah, that's part of Mezuzah. The dir is not made for a dir. But if there is a room that is that opens up to any of these, or to the porch, so you have to have even to the access. If you have an access from the outside to any of those rooms, you still would have to have a mezuzah, since that doesn't. If you have a room from the outside that goes in, if in our shul, for example, we have the closets in the front. So one of the closets is a small little room that has we use it for storage. But let's say if it was used only, it has the ladder there to be able to have access to the roof. So since it opens up from the inside of the shul, so it's a room, therefore it's mechuyev b'mezuzah. But let's say it would have been totally closed off, and the only access you had is from the outside. If the access from the outside is, and it's a small little room, and only for a ladder to be able to reach and have access to the roof, then it would be potter. But since it has also an entrance that goes inside the shul, even if it has another entrance on the outside, it's still mechuyev b'mezuzah because it's proper regular house and so on. Abeis hamerchetz. Bursikir based on tefillah is reading a bathhouse and a tannery and a mikveh is potter because it's einan the dir is covered. It's not made for a respectable kind of dwelling. But a place which has the cattle there, or the chickens are raised there, or based on tevan ba'etzim, or a place where you hold the straw and the eitzim and the storage there, or a storage of wine or other mashkim. So if it has the shiur of a bias, is mechuyev b'mezuzah, he says, but yesh paitim, some hold that it's potter. Stop over here.